The Final Fantasy Wiki podcast is brought to you by Cloud Strife Holdings, Inc., the #1 soldier first-class security platform. Your business's employees, processes, and technologies will be protected from aliens from space and psycho boyfriends. At least as long as we aren't hallucinating and crashing the entire internet. And then the music plays and we do all that stuff.
Yep.
So there we are. It seemed relevant and necessary. I guess did that affect any of you guys, by the way, the whole cloud strike nonsense?
Well, I'm currently not employed, so no.
I guess not, no. And Catuse, you were on vacation, right?
Yeah, I was. I managed to avoid it affecting my flight by just pure dumb luck.
Yeah.
I think if I left a day earlier, it would have been a big problem.
Yeah. I am to understand that Delta was down for like most of the week. And yeah, if you've ever had a nightmare flight scenario, like I've had in my life, it's a bad time. I once had to rent a car and drive back from Chicago. But anyway, this is the Final Fantasy Wiki podcast. Have you heard of this thing?
No, Blue, what is it?
Oh, well, it is the #1 podcast about the Final Fantasy Wiki, a fandom website devoted to encoding and logging and writing about all the various things about this series called Final Fantasy from a company called Square Enix. It's Japanese. Except they translated it into English for us. And we started in 2005, and we've been doing it all this time. Did you know when this wiki started, there were only 11 Final Fantasy games? And now there's, only 5 more.
Damn, why am I nodding along to this? I'm fucking sight gagging for an audio call.
What the fuck?
I'm like, what? Oh, dead sound. My joke must not be landing very well, but nope. Just SomeColorMage forgets we're audio only. Okay. By the way, I'm your host, BlueHighwind, and joining us tonight is SomeColorMage.
Hi.
And Catuse, our resident
Hello.
Final Fantasy XIV expert. Well, SomeColorMage is also the Final Fantasy XIV expert. And I don't play Final Fantasy XIV at all. So, in the world of this series called Final Fantasy from Japan, the newest expansion for Final Fantasy XIV, the 14th Final Fantasy game, came out. This is expansion 7.0, Dawntrail. Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I need you guys to go and correct me when I get something wrong about the basic facts.
Mm-hmm.
So this is originally made by somebody, I don't remember who, but currently it's run by a guy named Yoshi P.
Mm-hmm.
Only known by Yoshi P. No one knows his true name or identity. No one's seen his face. I don't think that's true. He shows up publicly a lot.
Nobody's seen his face, but people have certainly seen his watches.
Yes.
And his rings.
Mm-hmm.
And they've seen him smoking a cigarette in Vegas.
And a gif of him dancing along with a giant Moogle. So, before we get to Dawntrail, we should probably do the news, right?
Right.
Okay. So, let's see. What news happened? By the way, we cover the previous month, so this would be about July 2024. So, let's see. What was the news from July 2024? There isn't all that much. Let's see. So, first of all, this is a continuation of Square Enix president Kazuma Kiryu. This came out very late at the end of June, but I'm going to call it a July story because we didn't get to it in last month's story. This is all about the shareholders meeting and about Square Enix kind of cutting back on its mid-tier games. President Kazuma Kiryu, and that's his name, do not correct me on it, says that they are still going to make mid-class titles.
Yeah, like I really do not understand any of the communication around here, because also it seems like that the only thing that's changed is that they've renamed the business units to Creative Studio, which, like, that seems to be the only thing that's actually changed.
Yeah, he's not very specific about anything, and that's usually the job of the CEO, to say things and not be specific. Mostly it's just like they're saying that he's going to abandoning greenlighting projects that were deemed unprofitable. So maybe really all this is just saying that we're not going to do another, God, I don't even remember the name of the stupid game, Foam Stars. Maybe that's just what this all is.
Simply do not make products that are not profitable. It's a genius, brilliant business strategy.
Yes, everything we do should make us money instead of not making us money. I learned this in business school. Mm-hmm. I'm a businessman. I am very important. This is not really a news story, but I didn't have much that wasn't Final Fantasy XIV related, so Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is still the #1 game as of the first half of 2024, with a 92 Metacritic score. It may have been overtaken in the last month, but as of July 2nd, it was #1. Congratulations.
I think that depends on whether or not you count DLC, because I'm pretty sure Shadow of the Erdtree is like 94 or something.
That's what I was implying. Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see what Shadow of the Erdtree's Metacritic score is. This says 5. 5 is its Metacritic score. No one likes this game. No.
Damn.
Yeah. Oh, wait. My thumb was in the way. 95. Universal acclaim. So, So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has been soundly defeated. Let's see. This came out late. So, SAG-AFTRA is currently on strike with the video game industry. This is an issue regarding the use of AI for voices. Mm-hmm. This may affect Square Enix, because some of the voice actors actually are union. This includes the voice actress of our Lion Princess. What was her name? Senna Breyer is her name. Name.
Right.
Senna Breyer
is
their name. Yeah. I believe they are trans. Senna Ryer.
Yes. She's trans. Like,
let me make a note to edit this out, because I want to get the pronouns right on the air. So,
my from my knowledge, it's just fully feminine pronouns. So
that's what I've seen as well.
I'm going to make sure of these things. You could also look this in. Willamette actor. Senna Breyer is their name, and we have female pronouns on the wiki.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just... Alright, so why don't we just rewind and pretend that conversation didn't have it all. So this could include the voice actress of Willamette from Final Fantasy XIV, Senna Breyer. They are tweeting out that they are supporting SAG-AFTRA and will not be doing work for a little while. Though I believe the rules are that if you currently have a contracted job, you can't just walk out on it. It's mostly like you can't take new work.
Yeah, they also have not struck the entire industry, from my knowledge. It's just 10 specific studios, which could somewhat affect Square Enix, but it would mainly affect them through the fact that they've struck Disney, which would derail any Kingdom Hearts stuff if it comes up.
Yes. Also, assuming that these performances have not already been done, so it's entirely possible that all the Final Fantasy XIV voice acting has been done. They mentioned 10 companies by name. Square Enix is not one of them. It's Activision, Blindlight LLC, I don't know what that is, Disney Character Voices, Electronic Arts, Epic Games, Formosa Interactive, Insomniac, Take-Two, VoiceWorks, and WB. I'm thinking that the 3 companies we've never heard of, they might just be like outside.
Yeah, they're outsourced studios. I do not know who Square Enix contracts with for American stuff. 14 in particular is going to be a bit complicated because they outsource to both an American studio and a British studio. Because
the voice actors are British.
Most of the dub is European, but because Dawntrail takes place in Fantasy America, they started contracting American voices for that again.
Formosa Group seems like it works on Final Fantasy XIV. Just based on the dubbing wiki, which is entirely possible that it's wrong. I'm basing this on a fandom website, and, you can't trust a fandom website. Why would anyone listen to anything they have to say? But it looks like they work on Final Fantasy XIV. They also did Fire Emblem Fates, Secret of Mana, these sorts of things.
Okay, yeah, they definitely sound like Square Enix outsources too. So yes, it's a problem.
It could, it could be a problem. I would give the actors what they're looking for, because we did all this last year with real studios, and they lost real badly.
Yeah, and then SAG-AFTRA screwed that settlement up by saying, it's fine for voice actors, and now look where that's got them. They've got to go on strike again because they didn't finish the fucking job.
And there's always been a weird history of voice acting where it's a non-union gig in many respects. For some reason, it was largely kept out of many arbitrations and has been made a separate thing. It's why, infamously, Funimation was able to become so big, because they were a non-union house working in Texas.
Right,
and, if you were growing up in the 90s with Toonami, all your Dragon Ball voice actors changed because they went to a non-union crew. So, labor rights are actually very important to many things. And that appears to be the news. What's the Final Fantasy news? Final Fantasy XIV news. You guys would know that stuff.
Dawntrail came out, and also, they've been, I think they've put out, the store page for, the full version of the role-playing, the tabletop role-playing game. There's not really much news aside from the fact that, Dawntrail's come out.
I have one bit of news. Yoshi P apologized on June 30th because the early access issues were a thing.
But that's always a thing.
Yeah.
This is actually been a lot more stable, but there was a glitch in the... in fact, I'm not sure whether or not it's still going. The Xbox version kind of broke.
Oh, again?
It's basically... he put out a semi-technical explanation of what happened, but it's like a memory fragmentation issue that just caused stuff to start crashing on location transitions.
Yeah, so Xbox is ever the main character of video game news, if you follow these things closely. I remember Final Fantasy XIV had a big issue because it just started having Xbox 6 months ago.
Yeah.
They had a lot of content filters for random innocent-sounding words. Yeah. Yeah,
and we can tell that those have been mandated by Xbox because the in-game swear filter in 14, you can just completely turn that off.
And they just raised all their prices, and
it is completely without question that the Xbox Series X and S version of Final Fantasy XIV is the worst version of the game.
Yeah.
Not only does it have these issues that no other version has, if you only have an Xbox version of the game registered to your account, you are stuck to making purchases, including the subscription through the Xbox store. Which means, you basically got to buy their own currency for that, and just stupid fucking system. Meanwhile, if you have a PC or PlayStation license registered account, you can just do the normal process, attach a credit card to your Square Enix account, and you're good.
It's not. Oh, yeah. Keep going. Sorry.
I was gonna say, Steam has had similar issues, but on a much smaller scale, and it's like not nearly as obnoxious.
Steam is simultaneously an annoying version and the best version to use because, well, it's annoying that if you buy the base game on Steam, you are completely locked into Steam for the PC version. You can't buy expansions from Square Enix directly or from other retailers. You have to buy the expansions from Steam. Your account won't recognize non-Steam versions of the expansion for PC if you have the Steam base game. But it's also better because you can use Steam Wallet for a subscription, which has a more beneficial currency conversion than Square Enix usually has.
What do you mean by currency conversion?
Well, you have to pay in like, I believe the accepted currencies are US dollars, pound sterling,
okay.
euro, and yen.
Okay, I thought this was like an in-game currency nonsense.
Yeah.
Because
the in-game currency nonsense is for Xbox.
Okay. What are the in-game currencies for Final Fantasy XIV? As who knows nothing, they must use Gil, right?
They use Gil, they use tonestones, they use bicolor gems, they use company script.
It's an MMO, so there's like a half dozen token-based systems in there that constantly get superseded or rotated out for various reasons. The general thing is you use Gil for like your most basic things like teleportation, repairs, just buying low quality stuff. And then the main end game one is the tomestones, which is basically just a currency you get for running level capped content that you can use to spend on the current like middle tier of equipment, and then the high tier stuff is solely from raiding and such.
Okay. So, Dawntrail. Now that we know about the economics of it, what do you think of Dawntrail?
Mixed.
Mixed.
I mean, gameplay wise, this is probably the best it's been. Like, there's actual challenge in regular story content. Even that's kind of surprised because, like Yoshida said several times, "Oh, we need to up the difficulty." Nobody believes him, and then this expansion comes out, and during the main story, they're doing stuff like dropping things from previous expansion Savage content on you.
Yeah, I have heard this one's really hard. That's a complaint that people have had.
It's not really hard. It's like, it's still rather forgiving, and I am actually going to say skill issue on this one. Like, if you can, like, most of these mechanics are not actually complicated, and what makes mechanics hard in Final Fantasy XIV is not that the mechanic is difficult, but they pull out several at once. So the complexity just sort of rises, and you get to points where Catuse has to use mathematical theory to explain what the hell is going on. This is something that actually happened during Endwalker.
Wait, for like the boss mechanics?
Yeah. If you were in Hell Channel, you could see a bit where Catuse starts talking about combinatorics and such to explain why a mechanic is so hard.
Well, wait. Catuse got this. Could you give us a super summary?
It's not actually. I mean, there is a lot of stuff going on, but specifically what I was referring to is that a certain boss can do so for people who play the game, I'm talking about Phase 1 of P4S. A certain boss can do a certain thing one of two ways. At the same time, he's casting something else, which he can also do one of two ways. At the same time, he's also casting something else, which he can do one of two ways, repeated like 5 or 6 times. So the point is the mechanic is designed to be impossible to practice. You sort of have to do it from scratch every time because there are just too many possibilities.
That sounds annoying. I'll give it that.
But yeah, so like it's not reaching that. Although no Savage content in Dawntrail is out yet. That's going to happen on Tuesday. And the thing is, so far the complexity in Dawntrail has never exceeded 2 mechanics happening simultaneously. That's like, if that's enough to break people, yeah, that is actually a you problem, because like, there'll be a knockback mechanic and a stack marker at the same time. You solve that by just having every single party member stand in the exact same place. That is very easy.
Okay.
I will also say that, with regards to this issue, that Dawntrail fights are very forgiving. So one of the things that was kind of bad about Endwalker, and maybe this will still happen in Dawntrail Savage fights, I don't know, but a lot of the endgame fights in Endwalker were not fun because the difficulty largely derived from them being just extremely punishing. If anyone makes a slight mistake, everyone's dead immediately. So far, Dawntrail has been not nearly as punishing, and for the like more casual stuff, they've gotten creative with how can we put something in here that would normally be very challenging, but not just completely kill off the player base and scare everyone off. For example, when you in the final boss, when she does her like big limit break attack, if this was just by itself, it would be pretty hard, and it certainly looks very hard. And it's this.
God, that attack is so funny.
But
like can we just explain that one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
yeah,
all right.
so,
We should maybe like just admit, spoiler wall has gone up.
Spoiler wall, entire to your fucking Dawntrail. We're not going to slowly ease people into this.
No.
But yeah, so we're talking about a mechanic that the final boss, the Queen Eternal, does. So first of all, it's kind of a bait and switch because it has this very long cast bar, and there's actually system messages counting down to the attack going off. This is usually a fairly clean sign in Final Fantasy XIV that there's going to be massive, as in 10 million to all party members damage that you can only survive by using a limit break on a tank. Because a tank limit break is just flat blanket reduction to damage to all party members. Instead, it's not that, and it's just it's just like multiple different types of AoEs going off at once, while there's also smaller raid-wide hits going off at the same time. So your healers have to be working overdrive while also everyone has to dodge what is basically just a pile of random bullshit. And it's still kind of easy to see where the safe spot is. Everything is very clearly telegraphed, but it is just very much a visual overload sort of thing.
But the key point is this. The reason why they can put this in like story content is because in the like lead up to this cast, you generate a very large amount of limit break. So as long as a single healer survives, they can limit break 3 and raise everyone to full health.
Right.
So
it's also just the general thing that that fight is partially scripted, and the second time it goes off, Wuklamart will use cutscene powers to interrupt the attack.
Okay, so as a game, Catuse, what was your overall like thought on the expansion?
I think that they have a good like core plan for the story that's told in like the worst way possible.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But I do think that the I do think the gameplay is pretty clearly the best that Final Fantasy XIV has had.
Right.
And the production values are also like pretty high, except in the production values are very high, except in the main story, which is strange.
I did notice that like it seemed like they put more flavor into the accordion segment than they did anything in the main segment, because there's like custom themes for the levels and stuff, and it's like there's a
they put a whole amount of effort into that. Like you usually don't expect each fight in a raid to have its own theme song.
Yeah, they like went Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on it, where there's this B character that has her own song that has a like 4-minute run before it repeats.
Oh my god, the B character. The first time I went into that fight, after that cutscene ended, 2 of my party members were immediately first posting at her. This is somehow the horniest raid tier. That is actually an impressive feat. But like I have seen people go horny for at least 3 of the 4 fights. I haven't seen that many people go horny for the 3rd fight, which is surprising because that's basically just Akuma from Street Fighter.
I think that was the one that had a death metal soundtrack or like a screamo thing.
Yeah,
so I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, that song is that song sounds like someone trying to do one of those deep fried memes in audio form. But
I can say that I did something wild for this time, because you may remember that like 2 years ago we did an episode on Endwalker where you both suddenly went off and told me the entire summary of the story, and I at some point completely lost the plot and died a little bit.
Yes, I'm sorry. I should have just left that one as yes, we fucked Xenos at the edge of the universe.
That's what I wanted to hear, you know? Like, that's really what Final Fantasy XIV has ever been to me. It's like, all right, here's this weird guy that's chasing you around. He's basically... It's Sephiroth, but with better hair, maybe?
Yeah, like it's just that entire character arc was so funny because like the only thing he cares about is fight, and he manages to get like verbally destroyed by a 16-year-old girl because he doesn't give a shit about anything, and that somehow actually convinces him, okay, what if I helped the protagonist? Then they might fight me.
Now it's a Goku Vegeta thing. So at some point, I figure Xenos will return and will be glorious, but he does not return in this expansion. So I did the right thing and watched all the cutscenes, all 15 hours of them, which seemed like a lot to me. I was surprised by just how much content there was in this expansion. How long is this thing to complete?
Like 40 hours.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I think I saw a graph. I'm not going to dig this up because I saw this on Reddit a few weeks ago, but it's sort of the total like length of the cutscene script has consistently gone up every expansion, and I think this is sort of the issue with Dawntrail, is that you can have a very long cutscene script in Endwalker because the plot has a million things going on in it, and it's the culmination of the story that's been happening since like 2010 or whatever.
Yeah.
Dawntrail is completely new. It's a fresh slate, and we're trying to do world building and introducing all these new characters and stuff in like a visual novel format. And so there's just a shit ton of cutscenes.
But not all the cutscenes seem like... Oh, you can go.
I'm pretty sure overall it's shorter than Endwalker's story, but it is still significantly longer than Heavensward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, which is also really weird because the way they've told this, it's also just structurally flawed. Like for starters, okay, so in every expansion, after the intro, the story immediately splits into 2 routes. This is for technical reasons. They expect a huge influx of players at the start, so they divert the players into two different areas to try and balance the load a little bit. And generally in these expansions, the team actually splits up, and you learn a little bit about that area, and you get a little bit of those characters, the characters that went with your story arc, like the very short, the very introduction to what they're going to be about. Due to story caveats in Dawntrail, when that split happens, both directions you're accompanied by the exact same group, and as a result, you basically get the introduction to Wuklamot's character arc the exact same twice over, and it feels very repetitive, and it's very easy to come to the conclusion that the game very bluntly tells you immediately afterwards Wuklamot is absolutely not ready to be the ruler of Tuliolal. And it just kind of drags and is boring. And there's also some things that I'll get to later, because I think I'm kind of intruding too far into Catuse's point right now.
I don't know. I basically made the point that I wanted to make.
You stomped over me, actually. But don't worry.
Oh, sorry.
I can survive. I got plenty of HP. What I was going to say is the cutscenes seemed remarkably uneconomical, is how I'd put it. It seemed like they did not need to worry about budget on any level in terms of length. Like, they could just go as long as they needed to for every single one, and they never needed to go over, like, with an editor's brush of cutting out parts. So it feels remarkably PlayStation 2 era in terms of production, in terms of cutscene production. There's, like, dead air between lines at times. The performances are a little uneven, is how I'd put it, but I wouldn't call it atrociously bad. It does seem how can I put this? I never got the sense from what I knew about Final Fantasy XIV that it was this shonen. It was this, like, anime teenager story. But that seems to be the direction they went with it.
This is absolutely a genre shift. This is absolutely a genre shift. Like I wouldn't call, like, Final Fantasy XIV one of the most mature things ever, but like, towards the end of this, you can also kind of feel it struggling against the sort of main the general mood of Final Fantasy XIV and its main themes, because some number of episodes ago, I lumped 14 in with the darker entries, and you told me that's correct. And, like, yeah, it usually puts a chipper tone on it, but thematically 14 can be quite dark. This is a game that, as a whole, is about loss and how we cope and rebuild. And Dawntrail does touch on this theme. Dawntrail kind of interacts with this in the sort of are people gone if we remember them sort of way, and this culminates in the very end, which I'm sure we'll get to later, where it does something that is compared to the rest of the tone of the expansion, rather depressing, honestly.
I may not be sure what you're referring to, because I actually thought the story was remarkably undark as things went.
I'm referring to.
Yeah, you can go.
I'm referring to the final zone, and
okay.
Like.
Oh, I think I know what you're referring to. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right,
we'll get to that later, because Kat had a bunch of points written in the Discord channel about, like, the philosophy and stuff.
Well, I had some like super summary thoughts about, like, the tone of the plot. Like, there are no characters that die in this that I would call tragic. There's only, like, characters who are narratively expendable. So, like, the mentor figures. It's like, all right, well, this is a story about succession, so what do you think's going to happen to the king? Yeah, not going to end well for him.
Yeah.
And, you know, villains die and that sort of stuff.
Like, I believe due to gameplay reasons, Square's kind of gotten scared of killing main characters off because, like, the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, they are now NPC party members.
Oh, I was going to ask about that.
So, like, the last time a Scion was killed off was patch 3.5, I think.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, do those characters actually assist in battle? Because I wasn't sure if they were just there for cutscenes or if they actually had a gameplay role.
Yeah, they can accompany you into dungeons.
Okay. So they could be like, if I have no friends, they'll be the guys in my party instead of...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I do notice they all have their weapons on their back. So one of the creepy elf twins, he's a Magus, the one with the Gundam funnels that shoots lasers.
Alphino's a sage.
Sage, that's it. Yeah.
And they do a bit of that narratively, because like Alphino doesn't get the sage weapons until early in Endwalker, so he actually switches jobs at that point. Before that, he's playing Scholar.
Okay.
And if you go to a dungeon before the start of Endwalker, he'll still be a Scholar in that dungeon.
And Kryl, she's a Pictomancer.
Yes, Kryl's a Pictomancer.
Today I learned that her name is Kryl. I've been calling her Krill all the way back since I played Final Fantasy V on the Game Boy Advance. Why would I think it's... I don't know, it's weird for it to be Kryl. Also, she's a Lalafell. You can't tell that on the Super Nintendo graphics. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like just translation trying to make it less weird. Her Japanese name is Kururu.
Oh.
And that's partially why they put a Lalafell called Kururu in Final Fantasy XIV, because it turns out Kryl's Japanese name fits the naming conventions for Lalafell in Final Fantasy XIV, so why not?
So really, we should be calling her Krillin. Let me think. Do I have any other... one other thing I thought was very interesting. I don't know if I'd call it a complaint, but I could not figure out why the Final Fantasy IX cyberpunk world that you go to in the second part of this... this DLC's narrative is basically 2 complete episodes, up into including... At the middle, there's basically an end credits sequence. In the second part, you go to this cyberpunk Final Fantasy IX-ish. I'm not really sure why it's Final Fantasy IX. I have other thoughts on that. But I could not figure out what that had to do with the original concept, which is you going to fantasy Mexico with this sort of lizard people, Mayan idea. And ultimately, I guess it's just so that the 2 queen characters can be foils to each other?
Yeah, this ties into the structural problems, because this does fall into a problem that they've fallen into before. This is like the main problem with Stormblood. They put 2 different stories in there and didn't do much of a good job linking them together. And this is a strange one, because also like the concept of the first half of the story seems like it should be able to just merge the stories together, because like the succession ritual involves traveling across all of Tuliolal and interacting with the cultures and stuff. The areas that you go to in the second half of this game are also supposed to be part of Tuliolal until Alexandria lands on top of part of it. That feels like something that should be an actual complication of the succession right and such. But no, by that point, it's already over. Everything's been wrapped into a neat little bow. Where we were on our way to have this cute little story where Erenville meets up with his mother after all this time abroad, and then whoops, serious plot time.
Why is Erenville the narrator of this? I have no idea what his importance is to this entire story.
God, I don't know why he's the narrator specifically, but like Erenville is a character who first showed up in Endwalker, and we knew that he's sort of from fairly far abroad and was kind of just masking it, trying to act as Eorzean as possible, and then towards the end of the expansion, when Wuklamart gets introduced, they establish, Wuklamart's a childhood friend of Erenville. They're both from Tural, and so, and this also does kind of lead into another problem. If it feels like that the story's supposed to have character arcs for Wuklamart and Erenville and Kryle, and those latter two, it's just rushed. Like it feels like they didn't give half of the main cast the proper room to breathe.
Yeah, I could see that they're yeah, because at the end they all have a like what's supposed to be a sad moment of saying goodbye to a person, and you'd think these are three characters of equal importance, but this is 100% Luke Lamont. Luke Lamont. I'm not gonna do
Luke
well
Lamont.
with character names during this. A Lion Girl's story at all. It's hers.
Yeah.
She is the Goku. She's the Monkey D. Luffy of this story, and all the characters from previous segments seem to just be largely, I don't know, sort of like audiences. Like you just watch this sort of thing. Where I kind of thought the Warrior of Light was more of an active player in the narrative in previous ones, at least as much as there was a psycho fascist guy chasing you across the universe so that he could fight you.
Like it comes and it comes and goes, because like sort of part of the point of some of this is that of the overarching story is that it is not entirely just your story. Like Shadowbringers and Endwalker go very heavily into the Warrior of Light's character, but before that, a lot of the time we're just another person whose main thing is that like they're one of the strongest persons in the world and just need direction towards a problem to help solve it. And so the Warrior of Light does have their moments where they're a very critical person, but I would say up until the point late in Stormblood where the first time you kill Xenos, the Warrior of Light is not very much in the main character's seat. It only really starts happening after that.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dawntrail is kind of a return to norm in something that could have been interesting if they told it better, where the Warrior of Light is being a mentor to another burgeoning hero. But as it turns out, from what we see, the Warrior of Light is not very good at mentoring, other than their usual thing of, this is a problem I can punch, I'm going to punch it.
Yes, they're very good at punching. Everyone accepts this. This is their role in the plot, is to just be the really strong person. That if you are vying for the throne, you want a really tough guy that you can just have people punch.
Yeah. And it is really funny how a bunch of the antagonists just act like, oh, you're another guy, and probably every player is thinking, bitch, give me 5 seconds and you'll be dead on the ground.
Well, at the very end, the final boss singles you out as like, wait a second, you are the most threatening one of all of them. I can handle these other ones, not you, though. Let me take care of you first.
And then that bites them in the ass because they don't know the extent of our powers, which explicitly includes a spell that summons 7 other Warriors of Light to help kick your ass.
Okay. I have a very important question. Catuse. Of all these characters, which one do you have a crush on? This is what's most important about MMOs, I figure. Is it Bakul Jaja?
Bakul Jaja, I don't know if I wanna have a beer with him.
Bakul Jaja kind of rules.
Yeah, I agree with Catuse on this. I do not want to date the Final Fantasy XIV equivalent of Dick Dastardly, but I'll sure have a drink with him.
Okay. We need to mention, or I want to mention, that I think it's awesome that this is a kingdom run by lizard people, and society praises or desires 2-headed people. That if you have 2 heads, that's just better, and traditionally this is a superior form of life, up until they reveal that it's actually a horrifying genetics engineering experiment, and that they've killed thousands of people making 2-headed ones.
Yeah, that's like the first part where it really feels like Final Fantasy XIV story writing, where like, shonen tournament archetype stuff. Here's the mass grave of children.
I think of, you know what? I think of my characters, I'm gonna go with Luke Lamont. I wanna have a beer with Luke Lamont. She is the basically Luffy of this universe. And you know what? I'm gonna say I'm here for the shonenness. There's a lightheartedness to this that is wildly like, it's not the same lightheartedness as Kingdom Hearts, but it's similar.
Yeah.
And it feels wildly un-mainstream Final Fantasy. This just doesn't happen very often. And when they usually do it, it's extremely annoying, like characters like Vaughn or Titus.
Yeah, I think Wooklamut would also be a very entertaining drunk, yes.
There are scenes where she walks into your room and things seem to be, I don't know. There was no voice acting in that scene, so I didn't see what happened. You were saying, Catuse?
I was just gonna say that I think that I think that the reason why Wooklamot's character is so unpopular is not actually the character. It's because the goofy shonenness would work. It's just that the first like arc drags on for like 4 or 5 hours. I liked her towards the end, but by the end of that, I was like kind of getting pretty tired of her.
Yeah, she's very much a victim of storytelling. I don't recall anyone caring about how she was portrayed in patch 6.55, which is still very much the same early character points. Wooklamut shows up, wants to hire you, but instead gets into a fight with a big bird and then almost kills herself eating the spiciest curry known to man.
Oh, I want to see that scene. Dang. I would say there's too many scenes that are the same thing. Of like, all right, here's the bait. This is extremely rude of me to say, because I did enjoy watching these cutscenes, and I've watched worse cutscenes for this show in the past.
Mobius.
Yeah, Mobius, yeah, exactly. But I would say there's almost a Dora the Explorer element at times, where it's like, all right, Wook Lamont, come to the giant green owl people. Come help them grow their crops. And it, like, goes through the steps by steps of, like, basicness. And she's very... The performance is somewhat similar to that. I don't know how authentic any of these accents are. The only thing I can confirm being culturally authentic is the food. Because they have Cochinita Pibil at one point. Which they call like Shibia Pibil or something, which I'd love to try. I can't find it around me, unfortunately. I wanted to have some before this episode, but I could not get it.
Yeah, I think most authentic recipes do need an earth oven. I think you can make it with a slow cooker if you have like a sufficiently fancy slow cooker. But I haven't been able to figure out how to do it. But
yeah, I mean, I would want to eat it from, like, a restaurant first before trying to make it myself. Because I'm honestly not even sure what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, where were we? I guess we could kind of do, like, a brief summary of the story and see where that leads us in terms of discussion.
Okay, sure. I mean, so... we get started. We arrive in Tural after some brief surviving through a storm action with this one pirate who looks like he's in his 20s but sounds like a 60-year-old chain smoker.
If you're gonna go that much detail, we're gonna be here for like 6 hours.
No, I just wanted to make that one joke. We get introduced to like Tuliolal and the general contest and the people involved. We have Wooklamut, our guy, the very naive, wants to make friends with everyone type.
Yep.
And we have
Catboy.
We have
Catboy brother.
The tech bro cat bro. Yeah.
We have Dickhead brother.
We have Zoral. Yeah, we have Zoral Jal, the Gulul Jaja's biological son, who definitely has a bunch of complexes going on and wants to start a world war for the hell of it.
All right.
I'm just gonna point out, Soraljar's a real fucking idiot.
He is an asshole. I don't like him at all. All right. At first, he says he's starting a war to make people not want to have wars, which is like this extremely Gundam Wing narration.
I've heard that this is apparently an attempt to satirize an actual position that pops up in Japanese politics.
Okay.
Wait, is this what Double O Gundam is actually about?
This is Gundam Wing, I think, but maybe 002 might have a little bit. 00 is they send the Gundams down and stop all the wars, so they end the Irish Civil War like 300 years in our future, and the Sri Lankan War, which actually did end after the show aired. So I don't know. Yeah, but then eventually his goals keep shifting whenever the plot needs, and the answer is always genocide with this guy. So he's just an asshole. I think is ultimately the thing.
He goes under fairly extreme motivation decay, and in one point, and like the storytelling, despite making him look consistent, it actually kind of does a pretty good job at the visual storytelling, symbolizing his actual decay and his just inferiority complex. Towards the end, when you get the final fight with him, like he has his when you find him, you have his Virgil ass boss fight, and then
I see that now.
And then he goes Devil Trigger, and his Devil Trigger form is a two-headed Mamulja, but with the head associated with the more intelligent aspects torn off.
Wait, what's a Mamulja? Who's Mamulja?
The lizard.
His species.
Oh, the species is also called Ja? Alright, so,
yeah.
Alright, I was able to figure out that all of them are named Ja or Jaja based on how many heads they have. But they all have names like Bagulja, which meant
everyone has problems with this. Everyone has problems with this.
Yeah. Like, I got Bakul Jaja. He's easy to remember, but I don't remember what the king's name is. I don't remember what the son's name is that there is. There's a little tiny one later.
Yeah.
Bakul Jaja is the local bully who, if you know this story, you know that he's going to turn good. Like, you can immediately clock that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's basically Dick Dastardly. He does bad stuff that in theory is supposed to slow people down, but in fact just helps them. And then he decides, oh, fuck that, being a hero is probably more entertaining.
He's the bully from Skyward Sword, who ends up being the best character in that game.
You are not the first person I've seen compare him to Groose.
Groose, that was his name, yeah. So mostly the narrative is just you go around to all the various nationalities of this kingdom to go and complete their minor tasks, which are make the crops go back, or make tacos, or fight Valagamanda from Final Fantasy VI. And then at the end of it, it turns out that, well, the king is mostly doing this as like a test of all of his children and the local bully that he roped in mostly for walls, I guess.
Because he doesn't think any of them are suitable rulers, and it's like, well, if you do this correctly, it should prove that they're actually good at jobs. But I can still say, no, fuck that. Fuck that. We're going to have another succession ritual later because all of you failed.
Yeah, I guess it's like his way of not having the kingdom devolve immediately into civil war because it's a multi-ethnic state. And it's revealed, actually, in one of the better bits of writing that the only reason the kingdom even came together in the first place was, one, this guy was extremely strong, and two, he points out that the Eorzeans are also just going to invade at some point.
Like he points out that do you want the shit that's happening with Garlemald happening over here? And like he's right, and it's enough to cause peace. Although that's also the arc where we see that it probably wasn't enough, because this is also where we go to the homeland of the Mamulja, and there's still really strong racial tensions there because like the people in charge of Mamuk, the Mamulja city. Like they've had this two-headed breeding program because they figure, one of these is going to eventually eventually be able to start this big race war that will win and be able to take over the whole land. And of their track record, one of them decided to go for peace. One of them, this gets mentioned, it's something that happened back in A Realm Reborn, decides to invade Eorzea instead and get stabbed to death by a bunch of tomberries.
Oh, okay.
And
so that would happen.
one of them is absolutely failing to do anything of any worth. And
other than smashing tacos.
Other than trashing tacos, yes.
Oh yeah, Bakul Jaja's big plan to go and steal the race is to unleash Valgamarda, which would maybe kill thousands and thousands of people, only for at the next stage of the race for the guy to be like, oh yeah, you all have to be here anyway, so what you did was completely pointless. It doesn't matter who gets here in what order. You have to team up for this one.
Yeah, and for the most part, it's like, I don't give a fuck about the objectives. I can just steal the rewards for clearing each stage from the other contestants, and then Wuklamar kicks his ass.
Yeah.
So yeah, he comes in last place with 0 of the 7 keystones.
And Dickhead Brother ends up losing for some... I forget why he loses.
Dickhead Brother gets disqualified because... not only did he not in a position where he could get all 7, he gets mad at the final trial, which is the Mamuk Dickhead creates this sort of ghost version of his father, of Gulul Jaja, as his prime that the contestants have to defeat. And Zaraljar fails and gets so pissed off he tries to kill the judge instead, which gets him immediately disqualified.
I see potential issues with him as a ruler that this contest may be revealing. There could be wisdom here. Yeah.
And then they resolve that first by, and like Wuklamat and Koana are the ones who ultimately prevail in that bit. First by figuring out a way to ease the racial tensions, because like they figure out, oh, part of this is because they can't farm shit down here. This is like really bad land. And Kawan's like, well, I've studied in Charlie, and we have this giant database of plant life from all over the planet. We can find stuff that grows here. We can make this arable land that people will be comfortable in. And so, not only do the people start like turning in favor of the two of them because they actually listened to them and tried to find a solution. Koana then decides to just completely fuck the rules entirely, disqualify himself by basically destroying his scorecard, and says, well, you said only one contestant's allowed to fight at a time. I'm no longer a contestant, so both of our teams can now fight your Gulul Jajar illusion at once. And they do and win.
Oh yeah, Catboy Brother has various characters from previous expansions on his team, who I figure are important.
Koana hired Fancred and Urianche, while Wuklamat only really hired the Warrior of Light, but then Kryle and the twins came along because, well, some of them need to come along.
Wait, where Estinian's in all this too? What was his team?
Estinian wasn't on any team. At the end of patch 6.55, he decided, well, fuck, I'm basically unemployed and have nothing else to do now. I'm just going to pick a random direction, go that way, and see what the hell happens. And that's how he ends up in Tulialal.
So basically,
and then he just like hangs out with cowboys for 10 days.
Yeah. Yes, then he hangs out with cowboys for the entire story.
Every major character that I know of ends up in this freaking thing, except for like the old elf dude that might be dead, and the hot female pirate lady who might also be dead, as far as I know. Oh, and the 2 lesbian girls. They're not in this one either. Maybe they're dead too.
They don't have a way to leave the planet they're on yet.
Oh, okay.
So, like... but yeah, the remaining scions got brought over once the later plot started, because we left behind the ones who tend to be the experts at multi-planetary issues. We should probably give them a call.
I would say Wook Lamont seems remarkably naive during all of this, and really her naivete is never actually punished. She has like this.
Oh, absolutely.
I believe that if people talk together, no matter what their opinions, we'll come up with a solution. It's like this.
The thing is, despite that, she does actually come up with the correct answer for the entire thing, which is that she's not qualified to be Dawn Servant by herself.
Yeah,
and so
right.
and so once this challenge is completed, she exploits a loophole that's like, well, technically my father is 2 people, so technically there were already 2 Dawn Servants. Koana, you're also Dawn Servant.
I'll be Dawn Servant of Strength, and you'll be Dawn Servant of Mind, or something.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and like, yeah, that is probably the correct answer. None of them really demonstrate that they're qualified to be sole leaders. So yeah, team up. That makes the most sense out of everything. But anyway, after this succession ritual is over, we've got nothing to do. So Erenville's like, hey, I'm going to go north because I need to go see my mother. Do you want to come? Because like,
I skipped all
you like
of this.
Exploring and shit.
I figured none of this mattered to anything I'd seen. There were cowboys for some reason, so I just skipped all these cutscenes.
The only thing that's relevant that happened, well, so the only 2 things that are worth mentioning in this whole part is that Erenville is a mama's boy, and that there's like this duel between like this greaser kid and this evil corrupt sheriff, and then they bring in the greaser guy wins, and then the head sheriff comes in, and the reason why I mention him is he is the most, I think I cannot do his act, he is the most American accent ever. He says, from my perspective, you were acting in self-defense.
Yep.
Yeah, it is so weird because like once we go to Zach Terrell, the North America equivalent, they start spelling swears like they do in the 21st century. It is very weird to see shit spelt without an E in this game. Like I saw someone just say shit and like, wait, they didn't say shite?
I was surprised. I'm like, I figured, is this Troy Baker doing this role? Well, like it was a low-rent Troy Baker, I guess. But I didn't watch much of this.
I take a close look at the voice cast.
It's not Troy Baker. I think they would have made a point of that. He's too busy doing Death Stranding 2.
I also don't think Troy Baker does new like anime dub roles because like they don't, like compared to the stuff Troy Baker can do, like he gets to be in things like Death Stranding and The Last of Us. They can pay a lot better than a lot of the anime dubbing studios do. Mm-hmm. He's willing to reprise roles that he did in the past, but I don't think he takes on new ones.
Mm-hmm. So the cowboy stuff happens and seems largely irrelevant unless you have something to add, either one of you.
No, it's like there's sort of like they're trying to. So it's sort of like there's a concept that that shards of people's souls, because each of the 14 alternate worlds that comprise Final Fantasy XIV space settings basically have the exact same set of souls in them, and it's possible for people on one shard to be very similar to people on the other shard. And they're sort of making a point of it here that a few characters in this arc are very similar to people who were in the Amareng arc of Shadowbringers.
Wait. Are the twins actually not twins? They're like
they're twins. They are semi-identical twins.
Okay. All right. That would have been cool though. Never mind.
But like it's kind of just some setting fluff that might go somewhere eventually, but does not as of patch 7.01.
It's something that should have been like side quests. We have to, if you're doing endgame stuff, you have to go there anyway to get tumbleweeds. So.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that dungeon later. That dungeon is really stupid.
I was referring to the fact that you need tumbleweeds to make holy water, but also yes.
That's just Christianity. That's all in the Bible right there. All right, so then the plot like happens again because
Yeah, we settled the cowboy stuff. We're about to go to Yasalani, Aaronville's homeland, when suddenly it fucking explodes. There's a giant dome of lightning out there, and a bunch of robot soldiers fly out of it.
yeah, this
And
like, and you know what I'd call the way these guys look? It's video game aesthetic. It looks like a video card. It's like, oh yeah, here's your gamer
very.
keyboard.
I mean,
Here's your gamer chair.
Have you seen the Arcadian? I mean,
Yes,
like
yes.
the outside of it.
Yeah, that's exactly what made me think of it. I'm like, oh, this is just a 3090, isn't it? It's literally that.
But yeah, they invade Tulialal, kill a bunch of people, steal their souls, and
they do that.
like Galul Jajar's trying to fend them off, and gets confronted by Zeral Jar.
Who before we move forward, so dickhead brother all throughout this has this like scheming vizier character that's been standing next to him that seemed like he had his own agenda, and for like based on what I know about Final Fantasy XIV, if there's a creepy scheming character in the background, he might actually end up being one of the Askians, though I don't think they exist anymore. Then that guy just disappeared.
I mean, some of them. So basically, the leaders of the Ascians are all dead, but they're not technically extinct. Like there's a few that are still unaccounted for. But once they die, they're dead for good, because without the leaders, they can't really revive themselves. They kind of lose the mechanic. So there's still like a few of the there's still a few of the members of the Ascian Convocation still around, but they don't appear to be actively involved in the Dawntrail plot.
So this like Iago guy, what happened to him? I never saw that cutscene.
He just dies.
He just dies?
Yeah, so Zeral just fucking kills him.
Oh, what a dick. I hate this guy.
I thought his character was going somewhere, and then Zeralja just unceremoniously throws him off a bridge.
You know what? This might have actually been the smartest thing he did, because that guy clearly had his own scheme going, and it's like, all right, I'm not even going to let that happen. I'm going to throw you off a bridge before you betray me.
God, I even forget the timing of that. Was that when Zeral breaks into the City of Gold?
Yeah. Zeralja's crossing the bridge into the Golden City. His like scheming Iago character is like muttering to himself about his evil plan to do something or another, and then Zeralja's like, fuck you, and he gets out his sword, cuts his head off, and throws him off the bridge.
You know what? You know what the problem there is? That scene was not voiced, which meant I could not watch it, because the text in this game is the tiniest damn thing I've ever seen. So on the completely legal way that I saw this, of course, I could not read any of the text, so I had to skip all unvoiced cutscenes. I just figured they'd be unimportant.
I'm gonna say that is partially a problem with just the video you're watching, because the text is scalable.
Okay.
Although it's not as easily scalable as the rest of the user interface, it can still be adjusted a bit. But anyway, so back to the invasion of Tulialal. So Zeral just shows up. For him, it's been 30 years since he broke into the City of Gold at the end of the Rite of Succession.
Because time moves weird there. Time's very fast there.
Yeah, and he's surprised that Galul Jajar's still alive, because like at the end of the ritual, Galul Jajar revealed that like he's already half dead. His smart head died off 3 years ago.
Oh yeah, that was a great thing, because the smart head is covered underneath a shroud, and he just says he's sleeping. Yeah. And I actually believed him. I didn't think anything was a muck about it until he reveals, that head's been dead this whole time.
Yeah, like that bit's actually pretty funny, because like he planned out the entire thing, and then he died and made me execute the entire plan, sneaky bastard. Yeah. So like he's surprised that Galul Jajar's still alive, but like, hey, I can fucking kill you and prove I'm better than you now. And Galul Jajar still kicks his ass, and
he's
kills
got
him.
Gamer power now, which means he can revive infinitely.
He's got this one-up gamer headset attached to him now, which brings him back to life, and he lands a cheap shot on Galul Jajar and kills him. So anyway, now we have to figure out what the fuck actually happened. Because like, there's this giant electric dome over part of over Yasalani. What the fuck happened here? And
Zeral
and so
says that he's gonna destroy the entire kingdom if you don't confront him.
Yeah.
Because, as always, he's a dick. Like, this is his running character point.
Yeah. And so we start calling all the scions in because this is actually important bullshit now. And eventually we come with a plan of, well, we were going to take the train to Yasalani. What if we fucking crash the train into the dome, make its entry point just blow up and burst our way in there? It's like...
And now the Cowboys are relevant. There you are. They were going somewhere with this whole thing.
Like it works. Like it works, but also, yeah, this is honestly the most Warrior of Light Brain thing that's happened so far in the expansion. There's a problem. Let's punch it with a train.
So then you break into it, and it turns out it's this pocket dimension, which is Final Fantasy IX coded for reasons I still don't know why. I don't know what any of this really has to do with Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah. So like Yasalani's been abandoned. Like everything has been in disrepair for this state of 30 years, and like he eventually meets this mysterious woman, and it's like, welcome, I'm the Queen of Alexandria.
This Disney princess ass-looking character named Sphene.
Yeah. And the Final Fantasy IX music starts playing, and she establishes that we came here through some sort of magic bullshit, and we've been using our technology to improve the land. But there's also a problem that we appointed this co-ruler, the king of Resolve, as Zeral Jar, and he's an asshole.
Yeah. All right, so this is where I need to talk about my overall thought on Sphene, where I think she is completely untrustworthy, and everything she does, even after her like death, sad remorse scene, I think she's full of shit.
Oh, abso-fucking-lutely.
As a matter of fact, I like during her ending speech, I'm like, will somebody please call her out on this? Like, this is all your fault. You married a lunatic who wants to do genocide. Like, if he doesn't have milk in the fridge, he'll start a genocide over it, because that's his one solution to everything.
Are they very... Okay, so we had a whole storyline about how Mamuljas can't have kids because if they don't do it right, because everything gets fucked up.
Well, the two-headed ones can't have kids, but the one-headed ones can, right?
Well, they can have kids with Mamulja that have the same scale color as them.
Okay.
Sphene does not have the same scale color as Zeralja. But where did Zeralja's son come from?
But where's the little baby? Yeah, exactly.
I am hoping this is some kind of cloning bullshit, because I think we had enough of dose of Mamulja biology being uniquely fucked from what we actually got in the story. Because this is something that we actually discussed on the Discord server at some point. Crossbreeding between spoken races of the most sentient races in Epirus is completely normal. Like, you can find a bunch of half humans, half anythings in Eorzea. Like, that there are half Makote, there are half Elizan, there are half Garleans. Like the only problem with some of the pairings is the logistical one of, okay, you've got a Lelithal and a Rogadine, how the fuck would this even fit?
And here's the fan art that you need to draw for this episode. Including, in this one, this is a lizard and a mammal. So I could see certain, let's say, chromosomal problems in terms of this crossbreeding.
Yeah, so Mamulja reproduction just seems to be uniquely horrible.
I'm guessing an egg's involved?
Yeah, I think there are eggs involved.
Okay.
Until the game tells me otherwise, I'm assuming Zeralja's kid is a clone.
Okay, and also she is not actually alive. She's like a computer program.
She's a robot.
So there's multiple problems that could make this marriage potentially have stress.
Yeah.
It's never said that they're married, but they are king and queen. So
Yeah.
traditionally, that means you're
Yeah.
married. So I don't know. They could be co-monarchs.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we do go around this new kingdom of Alexandria. The area is called Heritage Found, and we learn more about like they do really weird shit with souls. Like when someone dies, like they all have this thing on this head that first of all it erases everyone's memories of dead people. And
Yeah.
also, like when someone dies, if it wasn't because of old age, it will like just grab someone else's soul that was of someone who's previously deceased, pop him in that person, bring him back to life, and
Also, they kind of resurrect people in a very Soma-like way if you played that game, the survival horror game, because as it turns out, the Black Vieira Erenville, he's a Vieira, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, he's a Vieira.
His mom is a chibi TV screen that just sort of, like this cartoon TV screen.
Yeah.
And that's her soul resurrected. And there's also a robot knight guy. That's another soul resurrected.
Yeah, there's this robot knight guy who's very clearly an XP of Steiner, who died a long time ago. They put his soul in a robot, and now he considers himself the caretaker to Zeraljar's son, who, in another case of daddy issues that we really cannot fucking unpack in its entirety, because there is so much wrong with Zeraljar as a person. He named his son after his father. They're both named Galul.
Oh, okay. If I could tell these names apart better, that would have landed for me. But they all sound very similar.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, we eventually figure out enough about how the world works and where Zoral might be hiding to finally bring the battle to him. Meanwhile, Zeraljar's decided, fuck it, they're not coming. I'm going to continue my my genocidal war, and starts invading Tuliolal again. But first of all, half of the scions are out there, and that's already enough to beat all of his ass. But then Koana reveals, since I became Dawn Servant, I started working on treaties with other countries. So fucking Vitra shows up, and it turns out Alexandria was not prepared for a dragon to show up, and Vitra just destroys the entire force.
Who are these dragons? Were they from another thing?
Endwalker, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Like Midgardsorm's children basically divided themselves into three groups. Ones that stayed in Eorzea.
Okay.
Ones that
You've lost me. This is beyond me at this point. Okay, so
Big dragon from India.
Okay, all right, got it. Thank you, Catuse.
Yeah. Like there are big dragons from French England, big dragons from India, and big dragons from Australia. That's basically
okay. Which one will the church not let us fuck?
The French one.
The French one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The French British ones. Yes.
Okay. All right. Where were we? Zeralja launches his invasion, and it gets defeated completely.
Yeah, and meanwhile we've just been climbing up
the co-monarchs thing actually works out great because Lion Girl, she's able to go and lead this invasion of this kingdom, and meanwhile Catboy can go and sit behind and lead the defenses. Yeah,
and so we eventually make it up to Zeraljar. He has gone full Virgil at this point, and he's completely fucking losing his mind. We fight him. Like during his fight, he like conjures up memories of his family and stabs those memories. Dude is completely fucking unhinged.
He starts killing the people of Alexandria too in order to steal their souls because this place is also cursed and runs on the dead. A lot of its technology and lightning. The dead and lightning is the economy of this place.
Mm-hmm.
So he can turn himself into a superpowered freak monster thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So eventually we kill Zeraljar, and there's been this gate to another world behind him. But when it closes, Erenville's mother robot turns off. and so we figure out the full extent of what is going on. So just first of all, in Final Fantasy XIV, the soul is kind of made out of three parts. There's the soul itself, there's the memory, and then there's also the life energy that it uses to stay alive. And so, like, we've seen them doing weird things with the soul itself and the memories, but we don't know what they've been doing with the life energy. They've been using the life energy to power this giant necropolis back on the world that Alexandria was from. That's basically using all the memories that they've scrubbed from people, all the memories of dead they've scrubbed from people, to kind of create them in some sort of virtual reality back on their home planet.
Which is a theme park that's also orange, because, we forgot to mention that there is a running myth in all the cultures of Tulilaja. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Where there's
Tuliolal.
Tuliolal, whatever. That there's this like El Dorado City of Gold concept that they've been searching for. It turns out to be this Necropolis Disney World Nightmare Land.
Yeah. And that's a bad thing, because like if this stuff doesn't get returned to the live stream, like it's basically the same problem Final Fantasy VII has. You know, if you use this on your weird attraction theme, you know, all the souls and stuff aren't returning to the. Well, they go back and forth between calling it the live stream and the ethereal sea, but like it very much runs on the same concepts of Final Fantasy VII. Using souls as power is bad.
That seems bad in general, even if you don't have a live stream.
Yes. But like we've already seen that the area that Alexandria has spawned in its sort of 30-year gap, the fertility rates dropped massively because they've basically pulled all of the soul energy out of the area. There's less people being born. And Sphene is, and like at this point, Sphene is also being revealed to be a robot who's also like part of this necropolis, and she needs to, and this has been sort of part of her plan all along, because she needs more and more soul energy, because the homeworld they're from was fucked well before they created this thing. It was nearly destroyed in a flood of lightning.
By the way,
this is a concept from previous expansions.
I'm going
plan
to.
Was...
it is the same plan as the Askians, kind of, right? Isn't it?
So it's kind of based on the side result of the Ascians fucking up their plans. So like the Ascian general throughput of how they destroy a world is that they flood that world with a particular element, and then cause that element to have a giant and then cause something that involves a lot of that element on the source planet, the original world. And so to get that source of element, it would start sucking from the flooded world and essentially destroy it, absorb it all into the original world.
Well, what I mean is like Emmett Selk?
Emmett Selk?
Yes.
That guy, the British guy with two hair colors. Like, his entire scheme is ultimately, like, about reviving his dead culture from 12,000 years ago. And all the people of this time are entirely expendable. So I'm noticing that Yoshi P has a plot that he really likes that keeps recurring in all his games, because also in Final Fantasy XVI, your world is the Gaia to Ultima's Terra. And he's trying to revive his people, too, by sucking all the life out of your world. So this is where the Final Fantasy IX comes from, because he keeps doing that same plot over and over again.
But yeah, so Sphene has been playing this the entire time because she needs more and more life ether to sustain her necropolis. So she's willing to just invade and suck every other world of Aetheris dry just to keep her monument to the dead running.
People know that this plan is doomed to fail, and she doesn't seem to care.
Yeah. There is like, there's not enough ether to keep things sustainable. Just you cannot have enough power to keep this thing running. So like we decide, well, we've got to go into the City of Gold now and try and destroy it. So we get there, and like this is the point where things start getting dark, because we bring our usual entourage with us: Wooklamart, Erenville, and Kryle, and for each of them, as they go along, they meet people that they have lost. That the Golden City, what is it called? The
Solution 9?
Something.
No, this isn't Solution 9.
No, Solution 9's the file zone. It's something memory. Living memory. That's it. Living memory. And like this whole thing is basically administered by the computer system that Sven's a part of, and it's deliberately geared to sort of encourage meetings between the living who go there and people that they've lost who's in their system. So it's kind of a mix of Final Fantasy 9 and Final Fantasy 10 now. It's part Farplane.
A little bit. But also very cyberpunk. It's like if you have a villain whose plan was to do the thing at the end of Soma, and by doing that thing at the end of Soma, you're also sucking all the life out of all reality. You should play Soma if you haven't played it. It's an amazing video game, but it's extremely dark. Oh, it's dark.
Yeah, so the cast is having to say goodbye to their loved ones as they're like gradually shutting them off. And also, Erenville's mum is kind of an asshole, honestly, because like everyone's already committed to turning this place off, but at the same time, she's also kind of trying to manipulate her son into doing it, despite the fact that he's already committed to doing it. It's like, oh, don't worry about us. We're not actually alive. It's fine. We can never grow here. She is clearly growing here. It's like, and like this is part of the problem, because Erenville has a character arc here, but it's not really focused on outside of this zone, and like there's a lot of implication that his mother, Kafka, is very like manipulative towards him, and was not a good mother, but it kind of gets glossed over because we're in the end game. We don't have much time left.
Yeah. Now we just have to go fight Sven.
Yeah.
Who turns into a robot monster thing.
Yeah, we turn we turn most of the place off. Last thing to do is go to Sven. To get to her, we have to go through her memories of the original Alexandria's destruction. This is the 4th time this has happened in Final Fantasy XIV. This is the 4th dungeon where you have to survive the memories of someone's apocalypse.
Huh.
Like that was the final dungeon of Shadowbringers. That was the final dungeon of Endwalker, where you had to go through 3 apocalypses. That was the final dungeon of Endwalker's patch cycle. That is the final dungeon of Dawntrail.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that final dungeon. That was, I mean, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking.
What
we
was
make
the
it
issue
to
with
Spain.
it in terms of like gameplay?
Because they just, I mean, well, there's no gameplay issue. It's just that it's exactly the same dungeon as we've had for like the past 3 expansions.
Oh, okay.
Narratively, it's just kind of the same thing, and I get what they're going for because it does all tie into the grand overarching theme of Final Fantasy XIV. But like, you can put spin on it. Like, hell, they did put spin on it once at the end of Endwalker, the Dead Ends, because that was multiple apocalypses. But like Amarot, you had to go through Amarot's destruction. The Lunar Subterranea.
Final Fantasy IX?
No,
Never mind.
Amarot.
Don't worry.
Emmett Suck's homeworld.
Okay.
Emmett Selk's home.
Okay.
Like the Lunar Subterranean, you have to go through Baron, Golbez's home, and now you have to go through Alexandria, Sven's home. And by the time you reach her, she's basically deleted her memories from the computer, so she can give up trying to be nice, because this entire time she has been trying to make Tuliolal part of Alexandria, so she doesn't have to steal their souls, and instead just reincarnate the dead in living memory when they die, and we can all be happy together.
Yeah, but...
and by this point she's now all okay. Fuck this! I'm deleting myself so that the AI has no fetters and can just conquer the world by itself.
Yeah, but her plan is already flawed because there's a finite amount of life in the universe to plan this.
Yeah.
But it gets exponentially worse when she's trying to absorb other kingdoms into her kingdom.
Yeah. Like, this entire thing is fundamentally flawed. Clearly, the people who created the robot are very bad programmers.
And also, her entire friendly facade is completely full of it.
Yeah.
She's constantly like, I feel bad about Zerulja, what he's doing. If only there was another way. Zerulja, you don't have to fight your sister. When it's like, you're the one that sent him to go and conquer the other kingdom to steal all those souls.
Yeah.
You are the real villain of this entire thing.
Yeah. So anyway, we talked about this bit before. She dismisses everyone who's not us outside of the datascape we're in. So we have to take her on herself. Whoops! We have Azem summoning spell still. It's now 8 verse 1 that you fucked up. And then Wooklamart manages to break her way back into this dimension and stop Sphene and assist in killing Sphene. This is really funny because like at the end, as Sphene is dying, you get to talk to her and she starts to show actual remorse. And there's this bit where there's dialogue options.
Sorry, no.
And there are dialogue options, and a couple of them are compassionate, and then the last one is like, "You're just a robot."
Oh God, I wasn't even gonna say that. It's like she's like at the end, if you could remember one thing about me, think that I loved my people. I'm like, no. I remember you as a manipulator and a liar and a lunatic that caused all these problems. You're still trying to manipulate me even after you're beaten. No, enough. I don't trust him for a second.
The implication of the dialogue is like, I agree, you're not actually responsible because you are a mindless machine who had no other option but to do this. But it's still fucking harsh.
Well, she kind of deletes her empathy or whatever to kind of go Super Saiyan.
Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, she dies.
But not before dropping a proposal to the player to write a Steam Wooklamart fix-it fic.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit! I actually forgot one important part so throughout this final zone, there's also been stuff about how Alexandria from this other world was able to get to this world in the first place, and it's like back during the 5th Umbral Calamity, the Calamity of Ice. A bunch of Lala fell on the source when they were affected. They invented this device that allowed them to just open stable gateways between other worlds, and they did it to flee the Ice Age that they were stuck in, and ended up in Alexandria. And this is how she was able to re-establish the link with the source in the modern day. And at the start of the fight, we cast Azem summoning spell, and Sphene still has the dimensional key. It lights up and shows like the symbol of the sun, Azem's symbol on it. So that's kind of like there is actually Ascian stuff going on here behind the scenes. Like they are hinting that there is actually something Ascian going on here.
I thought that all was done, and that this expansion was kind of like a fresh sheet of paper reboot. So this is your onboard if you don't want the decade of lore to deal with.
Well, like I said before, the Ascians aren't completely gone.
Okay.
And also, at the same time, it's Azem, so it's kind of a different situation because we're Azem. The player character is the reincarnation of Azem.
Okay.
So it's something that's kind of hinting at our own history going on here. But yeah, anyway, like Sven's dead, the cities, the living memory's been turned off. We go back to Solution 9, realize that that this whole thing has been managed by a computer. When Zaral Jar died, he made his son the administrator. So Galul Jar is the only person who can actually be the ruler of Alexandria right now. Surely this won't cause any problems in the future.
Well, I mean, at least his aunt is the one with an army and the threat of violence, and she's conquered this kingdom, so it seems like everything's fine.
Yeah. Wilclamart effectively adopts Galul Jar, and so yeah, everything's basically back to being Tuliolal now. And that's kind of where we leave off, to be continued. Meanwhile, the Warrior of Light is going to go participate in the furry WWE.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then a ridiculous theater kid take on an anime ending song plays. And I think I love it.
Song.
I think I love that song, as it turns out. I have it stuck in my head.
It's really funny and kind of out of place with the other ending themes. But based on the area where it first plays, because it first plays during that fucking cowboy arc, like, you have to look at it and realize, okay, yes, Soken completely understood the assignment here.
We're going to America. We got to listen to Broadway music.
Yeah. Like that's another thing. This soundtrack is fucking excellent. You can tell. You can really tell the difference between Soken working on 14 and Soken working on 16, because 16 he very much stuck to the same sort of tone for most of the soundtrack, which apparently was how he was directed to do. Whereas Final Fantasy XIV, I can sum up how Yoshida instructs Soken fairly simply. Step 1, show Soken some concept art. Step 2, give him a box of fried chicken. Step 3, just wait a week, and by the end of it, he'll have come out of his trance, written a song in a genre you didn't know that he knew about.
Okay. I will
14
say,
soundtrack is so good.
I will say, I thought, with looking at Final Fantasy 16, I'm like, I don't know if this team's actually all that good at writing stories, and I still, video games are a tough medium to write in, because unlike a movie, you have unlimited time and can count on your audience's infinite patience to put up with every cutscene you have. But there's definitely, I think there's more going on that's more interesting in this one, and it's a more refreshing take on Final Fantasy, this shonen adventure arc, even the ridiculous liberal, we're all just need to understand each other's stuff. That's so bright and pleasant. It's a much better take than we're going to do Game of Thrones and half-ass it. I'll say that.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I enjoyed Dawntrail conceptually. It throws in a ton of good and interesting ideas, and you can see where they could have had a really good story there. It's just that the way they told it is completely flawed.
Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. You're introducing a new setting, new characters. Yeah, Sinian is here for some reason, but he's just gonna fuck off with the Cowboys. New setting, new characters. It's an MMORPG. It makes a lot of. You just give people interesting side quests that flesh out the world. They're gonna do them anyways. Again, I'm gonna go to Shaolani to get a shit ton of tumbleweeds so I can make holy water. So I'm gonna learn a bunch about Shaolani doing the cutscene, doing the side quest there. And in Living Memory, they almost do this. There are a few NPCs you talk to when you're unlocking flight there that I think put the place in much better context. But they don't really exploit the fact that it's an MMORPG. They just shove everything in the main story, and the side, the role quests, a lot of the Ether Current quests are kind of pointless. The role quests are totally pointless. Everything just gets shoved into the main story, and the main story is just obscenely long and rambling and full of incomprehensible crap. Like
making tacos should be a side quest, I think, in any proper video game. Like, I think you should be able to make tacos in every video game. That should replace fishing. I'd much rather have tacos than fish. But it seems like it's kind of weird for that to be a main thing you have to do. Mamook
is like some kind of like Yucatan area. Maybe they should have made fish tacos. But yeah, like,
you're right.
Like the whole alpaca like trading thing. If you look at some of the cutscenes, it's like they have the UI of a mini game, but then it's not a mini game.
Yeah,
it's just you just talk to the NPCs and Wookiee just does it.
Yeah, that trading arc, like the first time you perform a trade and it just pops up this UI element just for this string of cutscenes. Oh, good trade! You've exchanged this for this. I just laughed so hard at that bit because it felt like the game was taking the piss out of itself.
Let me.
But yeah, I think the story would have been a lot better if they just used the fact that it was an MMO.
Mm-hmm. Catuse, you also had interesting theories, possibly fitting into Christian esotericism about this story, right?
I mean, I don't know if I'd call it Christian esotericism, but I was trying to figure out what the fuck was going on in Living Memory. Because the story sort of does not make it very clear. And so we were talking about earlier, right? Erenville's mom says, "Oh, we don't have memories. We're not alive." And then it seems like she's alive.
Mm-hmm.
And then she dies. But like, I think that if you sort of ignore the character of Erenville's mom, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, it fits into the it sort of fits into a recurring thing that Final Fantasy XIV has had, because you look at like so at the end of Endwalker, Emmett Selk tells the Warrior of Light he just like lists out all the next like 10 expansions. He's like, you should go here, and you should go here, and you should go here.
Yeah, that is still one of the funniest bits where Emmett Selk is like, no, I don't want to fucking live in your world anymore. Here's a list of objectives for you to tick off. Leave me the fuck alone.
And so the Warrior of Light does tick off some of those objectives in going to Tuliolal, and it seems like it was probably intentional by Emmett Selk to send the Warrior of Light here. And we're sort of doing what Emmett Selk was doing in a superficial sense, in that we're sort of like destroying something we don't consider to be alive, to preserve the life that we consider to actually be life.
Yeah, and like if Emmett Selk knew this, which he probably did, this is actually somehow the most dramatic bitch thing he's ever done. Like,
yeah, this is 100%. This is 100% planned by Emmett Selk.
Because Emmett Selk's characterization is basically the most dramatic theater kid bitch you've ever met. But yes, this is like just an elaborate revenge scheme done beyond the grave to force the Warrior of Light to feel what he felt. And like, god damn, dude.
But there is a difference, and I think the difference becomes a lot clearer when there's an NPC in Living Memory who you have to talk to when you're unlocking Flight, who is a guy who his girlfriend, like he died like 40 years ago, like before he was about to propose marriage to his girlfriend, and he has done nothing in the past 40 years other than sit on his ass in Disneyland thinking about proposing marriage to his girlfriend. And now, conveniently, a few hours ago, she died. So he goes and proposes marriage to her, and then we turn the whole thing off. And they're gone. And like all the NPCs you talk to are like this, except for Erenville's mom for some reason. That's never really explained. They just sort of have an objective or something that they decided to do before they died, and then they just sat on their ass waiting to do it for like 40 years. And I was trying to figure out what the fuck is going on, and I still can't explain the shit with Erenville's mom. But I look back to like Reen and Gaia, and they cannot create. So they're trying to bring back life in the empty, right? So they summon all these primals. They summon they summon Ifrit and Garuda and Titan and all this shit, and you kill them, and that releases the energy of that element or whatever. A long Nomura-esque explanation of how the world works, which I thought at the time was totally pointless. And then at the end, it doesn't work because they also have to summon the Cloud of Darkness, because the Cloud of Darkness represents like change. Like darkness represents change because, I don't know, Nomura said so.
Yeah, darkness and light in 14 are kind of pseudo elements. They're not actually elements in and of themselves, but they are representations of the forces of order and entropy, basically.
Okay.
And a big part of Shadowbringers is that, like, people on the source actually got the relationship of darkness and light to astral and umbral energy backwards, blah, 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 blah. Not important. The thing is, life can only be created by darkness.
I see.
Yeah, so the point of that, like 2 expansions ago, is that life in Final Fantasy XIV is sort of defined to be something which is changing. Emmett Selk doesn't consider us to be alive, but he's sort of the unalive one, in that he sort of had the same goal for 12,000 years, and he wants to bring back this ancient civilization rather than let life play out its course.
Yes.
Suppressing the character of Erenville's mom, everyone else is static in living memory, and this is why they're not alive. So what we're doing is actually morally consistent with the plot of Shadowbringers and Endwalker, except for Erenville's mom. I can't explain that.
I can't explain Erenville's mom, but all right. So, I get this. Darkness and evil is the core change of the universe, because wait, I can bring Kabbalah
No,
into
darkness
this.
isn't evil.
No. Evil. No, change is chaos. All right. So in the beginning of the universe, before everything was created, there was the Ein Sof, the infinite, pure goodness of God, and all was light, and all was good, and all was perfect, except that there was no possibility of change. And at the beginning, God contracts, which creates this misunderstanding and chaos that is the root of all evil. And the Sephiroth, it's all very, very complicated, and I barely understand it myself, but God contracting is sort of the way that darkness gets introduced into the universe. And that is how life is able to exist. And that is what Final Fantasy XIV is all about. It's really all about Kabbalah.
You know, that makes more sense than like most of the stupid fan theories I see about living memory.
Okay, all right.
And we did fight the Sephiroth back in Heavenswood, so...
Yeah, and Sephiroth is still chasing us because he wants us to be his boyfriend in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It all connects.
I think I had nothing else I wanted to bring up other than the other tumbleweed thing.
Okay.
Yeah, part of it is just, I actually want to add something to living memory. Part of it is that basically I think Kafka is lying. Like, I think she's making shit up to try and make the party feel better about something that they have to do that is morally ambiguous. And the main thing of that is Trial's part in living memory, because Kryl was abandoned as a baby. We find out what happened was that some 20 odd years ago, Galul Jaja and Galuf were investigating the gateway to the Golden City, when suddenly a couple of Lalafell pop out, give them this baby, and retreat back into the Golden City. And so when we get to the Golden City, Kryl finally meets her parents. They're long since dead because various time bullshit and also they had been kind of been opposed to the creation of this thing. So the people who created the robot likely hunted them down. But basically by talking to their daughter, they're able to exhibit behavior and interactions that they probably wouldn't have done when they were alive. So it shows that, like, these kinds of this memories running on life energy, they're still technically alive. They're still probably capable of growth. And what we're doing isn't because they're dead. Like, we kill undead all the time. That's not a big deal. But it's just something we have to do because they exist in a way that is incompatible with the rest of life in the universe.
And this heaven is a false heaven, and we could bring Gnosticism into this now if we want to, but that's too obvious. I mean, it's the Matrix. The Matrix Gnostic metaphor is already clearly stated.
Steen is basically God, and you know what this is? You know how in Final Fantasy Tactics is like a dark take on Jesus? This is a dark take on heaven.
She is the oh god, the word blanking. She's the demiurge, which is created as a false heaven, and she thinks this is salvation. This is not salvation by any means. Because all it is a theme park. Like, on top of everything else, this, like, paradise of hers is just this crappy Disney World with Ferris wheels.
Yeah, that is honestly a pretty close fit.
Like, really, like, you think, like, this is salvation, like, this is where you gotta spend the next thousands of years, and it's like, alright, it's nice that there's Ferris wheels, but how many times can you ride the damn Ferris wheel? Okay, SomeColorMage, you were saying? Sorry.
Well, no, that was the end of my point. I was about to ask Cat what he was moving on to about the tumbleweeds and such.
Oh, I just wanted to, I mean, we just have to mention the greatest serpent of Tyrol.
Oh, yes, God, that dungeon.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so in Shadowbringers, there was this side quest arc in where you meet this guy who thinks he's been receiving visions from this ancient Ronkan god, the Great Serpent of Ronka, and you meet it, and it's this tiny little Tsuchinoko-like thing. This little yellow and brown striped
he looks like a bumblebee.
Yeah. And later on in Shadowbringers, there's more side quest arcs and stuff that does in fact prove that you actually have multiple Great Serpents of Ronka minions in the game. You can give one this cute little hat or this cute little mining helmet. But they were still kind of a big deal. In Endwalker, not Endwalker, in Dawntrail. One of the two end game dungeons, because this is a thing, after you beat the story, you always unlock 2 dungeons that are basically like the starting point of grinding up gear for the rest of the expansion. And one of them is you're in Shalani, the cowboy area, and you've been asked to investigate these ruins from an ancient civilization. You go there, and you see a bunch of notes scattered around. They all start talking about like this snake and stuff. You get towards the end of the dungeon, and it starts turning into right. So yeah, it starts looking like this Ronkan temple that was a dungeon in Shadowbringers. You get to the very end, and the final boss of this dungeon is this giant Great Serpent of Ronka called the Greater Serpent of Tyrol. And it's like this is dumbest thing. This is one of the dumbest end bosses I've seen. It's so fucking goofy.
Well, the entire dungeon is very goofy. We fight all these. It's Tender Valley. It's Sabo Tender Valley. We fight these Look at this cactuar. Look at how buff he is. Look at all these cactuars.
Oh yeah, the fucking buff cactuar.
I like these better than the buff tomberries from Final Fantasy 16. They were oh god, they were disturbing.
As far as I know, Final Fantasy 14 does not have any cactuars with as much defined of an ass as those tomberries in 16.
So I guess I have my last question. Did either of you play Pictomancer at all?
Not yet.
Okay.
I've played Viper.
What's like been the general reception to Pictomancer?
Pictomancer's fucking busted.
Okay.
like busted good. It is currently the best DPS in the game. That is inevitably going to get nerfed because that is basically as a caster, it's supposed to have a thing where its DPS isn't the highest, but it has the advantage of it's a lot easier to hit enemies with than a melee class. So like if you look at it from the standard thing, like Samurai is supposed to be the top DPS, but something has gone wrong with Pictomancer's numbers that allows it to blow everything out of the water, and
Well,
it's
So part of the issue, I think, is that in Shadowbringers and Endwalker, every boss's hitbox was like the entire arena. So like
right.
the distinction between melee and range was irrelevant. In Dawntrail, Akuma has a tiny hitbox and dashes around all over the place.
Yeah.
And so being ranged is actually an advantage. So I would not be surprised if they like balanced Pictomancer around like Endwalker bosses, which have for some reason have like every boss is like the size of a house. And that does not work in Dawntrail when being a melee actually is relevant.
Yeah, and also like the general thing is Pictomancer is supposed to be damage-wise roughly equivalent, a bit less than Black Mage, and it sort of is in a solo context, but when it gets into raiding territory, that's where Pictomancer becomes truly busted.
Okay. Is that everything we have for Final Fantasy XIV? Dawntrail?
Unless you want to get into the WWE furries.
I mean, we kind of brushed against that, didn't we?
Yeah, we brought it up.
Yeah. Unless there's some major thing I need to know. Like, people are apparently horny for Honeybee Lovely.
They're horny for most of the fights.
Yeah. I'm surprised I have not seen more fan art of these buff cactuars. I can see people being horny for that. Really, that's what video games are at this point. It's just finding things to be horny for.
Well, one of the most exciting parts of every Final Fantasy XIV expansion press cycle, because they always end up advertising it, is what kind of weird new cactuar design they've come up with.
These aren't bad.
Because like in Endwalker there were the lunar tenders, which were like these really tall, lanky rainbow cactuars.
Those were gross looking. I did not like those at all. Yeah, I remember those ones. Ugh. That was a bad time. I guess I'm feeling kind of tired, so maybe we should wrap up.
I'm gonna go make dinner.
Yeah. All right, so this has been the Final Fantasy Wiki podcast. This is a monthly podcast where we talk about Final Fantasy and Final Fantasy-related things. I've been your host, BlueHighwind. That's been Catuse, who I guess kind of was also a host, and Vice host, SomeColorMage. Techno-Obliterator is not here. He's usually here, but he's not here this time. And that's that. The website is finalfantasy.fandom.com. Go there for Final Fantasy news. I assume we're covering this game, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. But usually the MMOs, there might be other wikis that might cover it better. That's just the way of things in some way.
Well, sure, but most of those places are focused entirely on the gameplay. We actually write down the story.
Yes, that's the problem with the final. This is why I've had so much trouble getting into like Final Fantasy 14 or 11. It's like I just can't find any good summaries of the story because most of the online things are like, oh, here's where you find the hats. Here's where you can find all the 6-level hats. I'm like, I don't care about the 6-level hats, so whatever.
Yeah, which is also because like 14 does make this kind of documenting a lot easier because compared to most other MMOs, 14 is ultra linear. Like nearly everything is tied to progression in the main story. Like if you were to pick up Final Fantasy 11 now, you basically randomly jump between a bunch of the stories as you progress. Like some of the stuff in the grand finale storyline, the Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, it basically intended to be done as soon as you start the game. It's so it's kind of incoherent in that sense.
Okay. I had one other question but I want to wrap this up. I just got a call from my brother. I got to call him back. So,
Yeah,
I already said what the website was. I already said it's the host. The music is La Montaña de los Jovenes Caballos by XPRTNovice off the OC Balance and Ruin soundtrack. You hear that every single month, all the time. It's constantly there. And that's that. I'm going to go to sleep. And talking loud, less loud, normal volume, slightly quiet, very quiet, very, very quiet, romantic. Okay, you guys say something.
Hello, I am a
Something.
pizza.
You are a pizza?
It was the first phrase that popped in my head.
Okay, all right. Okay, SomeColorMage, sing the end credits song for me, please.
Was it Dawntrail? I don't know the lyrics. I'm just kind of laughing at how goofy it was.
No, you gotta sing the whole thing. All of it.
I literally don't know the words.
Yeah, that's it. That's perfect. Yeah, you did it. Okay.
I'm building a bomb to Broadway musical music.